Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on how to get the most out of Microsoft Word. This webinar is being hosted by Deborah Ashby, who is our in-house instructor for all Microsoft Office programs. Today's webinar will last around 1 hour. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the question box. We will take all questions at the end. I'm now going to hand over to the Microsoft Word expert, Deborah Ashby.
Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar on Word tips and tricks, how to make the most out of Word. As it was just mentioned, my name is Deborah Ashby, for those of you that haven't attended one of my webinars before, and I'm the in-house IT trainer. So really it's my job. I look after all of the Microsoft products. I write a lot of our Microsoft training courses, and I also run webinars such as this one for you lovely people. And today the focus of this webinar is going to be on Word and making the most out of Word, some productivity features and some tips and tricks which are going to help you out a little bit when you're working with your documents. I envision this session to last about an hour. I'm going to try not to run over today, because when I get going, as anyone who's attended any of my webinars knows, I do love to talk, so we do invariably run over, but I'm going to try and keep it to an hour for today. The way that this session is going to work, it's going to be pretty much all live demos. So we're going to jump into Word in a moment, and we're going to start going through some examples in a document. And I'm going to be going through a number of different things. I'm going to try and squeeze as much into this webinar as I can. So I am aware that you're probably writing notes, and I might possibly be going a little bit fast for those of you who are writing notes, but just remember that this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available to you after the session. So if you don't quite manage to keep up with the speed that I'm going at, you can review all the content in that recording as well. All right, lovely. So without further ado, let's jump out of the presentation and we're going to go across to Word. Now, the first thing that you might notice is that I'm using Word 2016. So that is the latest version of Word, but these functions that I'm going to show you, they do apply to most of the previous versions of Word as well. So 2016, 2013, 2010, and possibly 2007 for most of the things which I'm going to be showing you. So I want to start out just by showing a few little tips and tricks and things that you might possibly not know about in Word. And the first one relates to keyboard shortcuts. Now, some people love keyboard shortcuts, some people don't, some people very much like to work with their mouse. I kind of do a combination of both. There's some things I use keyboard shortcuts for, so the popular ones like Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, Control-S to save, those kinds of things. I think a lot of people will kind of use those, and in general I'll use my mouse for most other things. But if you are somebody who does like to use keyboard shortcuts, this is something which not a lot of people seem to know about. If, when you're in Word, if you hold down the Alt key or if you press the Alt key, you'll see on your screen, if you now look at the ribbons and you look at those little tabs, you can see that it's now got little letters underneath each of the tabs. So I can now press the corresponding letter to take me to that particular ribbon, and so on and so forth. So for example, if I want to insert a table into my document, now I've pressed the Alt key, I can see that the Insert ribbon, if I press N, that's going to take me to the Insert ribbon. So I'm navigating completely using keyboard shortcuts. Now if I want to insert a table, you can see table there is under the T, so I'm going to press T, and then I can use my arrow keys to move down. So, you know, this is quite handy. I know I've used this in the past and it sounds crazy, but when my mouse is broken, I've actually navigated and worked in Word completely using the keyboard just by using these shortcuts. So you can do that just by holding down the Alt key and then working through your keyboard shortcuts that way. So that's quite a nice handy little tip as well, which you may or may not have known about. Lovely. All right, so that's the first one, so keyboard shortcuts. A couple of other things that are going to make your life a little bit easier when you're working in Word, and again this is something you may or may not be aware of, is the quick access toolbar. So you'll see at the top here, and they're sort of quite greyed out, you'll see we've got the save icon, and then I have undo and redo in the top here. Now these little icons, where they're located, this is called the Quick Access Toolbar, or the QAT, Q-A-T. You'll see there's a little arrow at the end, and if we click it, that takes us into a customized Quick Access Toolbar menu. So I can then go in and I can then select commands I want to add to that Quick Access Toolbar, and the idea behind it is obviously to make it quick for you to access popular commands that you might want to use. So you can see the ones that are currently ticked are the ones that are on that Quick Access Toolbar at the moment, so save, undo and redo. So to add more to that, I could, for example, if I wanted to add print preview and print, I could select that, and you can now see that that's located there as well. So it just means I'm not having to hunt through all of the ribbons, all of the commands to find commands that I use all the time. Now what Microsoft have done with this Quick Access Toolbar is that they've given you a list of popular things that you might want to add onto that Quick Access Toolbar, but it's by no means the only set of commands that you can add to that toolbar. You can pretty much add any command on any ribbon to the Quick Access Toolbar, and there are a couple of ways that you can do that. So for example, let's click off, and I'm going to go to the Home ribbon. And I use Format Painter all the time, so maybe I want to add Format Painter to the Quick Access Toolbar. All I need to do is hover my mouse over, right-click, and you'll see whenever you right-click on an icon on any ribbon, you'll have that option to add to Quick Access Toolbar, like so. And you can see now, there I have Format Painter. Okay. If you need to remove anything, you can just right-click, and you'll also have the Remove option in there as well. So very, very nice and easy. So we would always recommend to people to go through, just to make your life a lot easier, and add in all the commands that you use frequently to that Quick Access Toolbar. There is also, again, if we click on the little drop-down arrow, right at the bottom you have a More Commands option. So that's going to take you into kind of the backstage area, into your options, where you can really go in and customize your Quick Access Toolbar. So you can see here on the right-hand side, these are all the commands which are currently added to it, and I then have access to every single command if I wanted to. So all commands I can change it to, and you can see there's hundreds in there, so I can go through and I can add any command to that Quick Access Toolbar, even if it's not necessarily on a ribbon. Not every single command is on a ribbon, shall we say, so you can do it that way as well. So another little recommendation for you with regards to customizing things and making things a little bit easier for yourself. Something else in Word that you may not be aware of, and this is particularly useful if you're somebody that ever uses Word on maybe a tablet device. So if you use Word at home, this might be an option which you don't know is there, which can be really useful. So for anybody who does have a tablet device, you'll know that if you open up any Microsoft application, it looks pretty much how you're seeing it on my screen right now. And sometimes, you know, fat finger syndrome, and I'm very guilty of this as well when I'm typing on my phone, you can change the layout slightly of your Microsoft applications so that they're more conducive to a touchscreen tablet device, phone device, something along those lines, by switching it to touch mode. And that is done, again, through where we just were. So in that little drop down on the Quick Access Toolbar, you'll see you have a touch mouse mode just here. And if you click it, I'm just going to add that onto there, and it will say to you, when you click on the option, is this for a mouse, a standard ribbon and commands, which I currently have it set to, or touch, which will give you more space in between your commands. So if you're on a tablet device, that allows for that kind of fat finger syndrome, we should call it. Okay, so that's quite a nice little option for those of you that do use tablet devices or Microsoft on tablet devices, your touch option just there. And I'm going to switch it back to normal mode. Okay, so a couple of little things in there for you. Something else, and this is something that I find really, really useful, and that is the pinning and unpinning of documents. And again, this is just a quick way of enabling you to access documents that you've used recently or documents that you use frequently, shall we say. Now, again, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close down Word altogether. So I'm just going to click on the cross in the corner. And you can see that I've got Word down here. So I have, I'm running Windows 10 on my laptop, and I have applications that I use frequently pinned to my taskbar down here, which I'm sure most of you will have if you use them frequently. And what I can do is, without even opening up Word, and this does apply to all applications, so Excel, PowerPoint, so on and so forth, if I just right-click my mouse on the icon, I get a list of all of my recent documents. So I can see all of my recent documents there without even having Word open. I can then double-click on them to open. It will open in Word. However, what I can also do is, you'll see that as I hover over these documents, I get a little pin icon. So for example, this one here, trainer's notes. If I click on the pin, that's going to create a new little section at the top called pinned, and it's going to put any document that I've pinned into the top there. So those will always be there. So what I like to do is kind of pin documents that I use or access all the time. So it just makes it so much easier. I don't have to go into File Explorer. I don't have to hunt around for my document. I can just right-click on Word, and there are my documents pinned to the top. These will never become unpinned until you right-click on them and unpin them. Recent documents will be constantly changing. That's a dynamic list depending on what you're doing. So as you open documents, the newest one will go to the top, so on and so forth. So pinning is a great way of quickly being able to access your documents. So you can pin through there. You can also, let's reopen up Word again. I'm just going to click on blank document. If I go to File and select Open, which I'm currently on, you can see here I've got recent, and I can also come into here and pin documents as well. So again, when I hover over, you can see I get the little pin icon, and I can pin from within inside Word as well. So again, a really great way of making it easy for yourself to access documents you use all of the time. So pinning documents, another great feature. All right, now I'm just going to put a little bit of text in this document, and this is a little trick that we trainers use. I don't expect you to remember this or ever have a need for it, but it's just a little bit of code which is going to allow us to put very quickly just some random text into a document, like so. Lovely. Now another little thing that I find quite useful, and this isn't essentially a Word feature, this would probably be more of a Windows feature, because you can use it for Excel, PowerPoint as well, but I think it's really useful, particularly if you're working on Word documents. So if you do a job where you find yourself, you often have to maybe compare documents side by side or read documents and have them next to each other, it's quite nice to be able to view your documents side by side. And there is a feature within Windows, and it was from Windows 7 onwards, called Snap, which allows you to do that very nicely and easily. So if I just show you how that works, I've got this document open now. I'm just going to open another blank document very quickly so that we've got a couple of documents. So let's do a little template document. Okay, so I have two documents basically listed here. Now what I can do is I can pick the first document up with my mouse and drag it all the way over to the side. And I don't know if you can see, now that I've dragged it over to the side, I now have a ghosted line running down the middle of my screen. So that's essentially showing me when I let go of my mouse, my document's going to snap to that guideline. So when I let go, it snaps. I can then pick up another document. Now in Windows 10 you'll see it kind of looks like this, so it will show you all of your other documents, and you can then just select one and it will snap very nicely into the space that remains, which is quite nice. In Windows 8.1 or 8 or 7 it doesn't do it quite like that. You would need to drag the second document over to the side and let go for it to snap into place. Okay, so works slightly differently depending on which version of Windows you're using, but I always find it really useful, that snap feature. So I've got them side by side like so. And another little feature, and a lot of people say that this might possibly be a little bit gimmicky, but if it's gimmicky, I love it anyway. At the end of the day, and I don't know if you're anything like me, when you've been working away, you've probably got lots of different documents open, so you might have, you know, a few Word documents open, some Excel documents, PowerPoint, various different things. I normally end up with about 20 different things open, minimized in my taskbar. A quick way of minimizing everything down, so if you just want to get back to your desktop and you've got lots of things open, there is a nice quick way of just minimizing everything really quickly, and that is you can pick up any window on your desktop. So I'm just going to choose this one and then shake it from side to side. Oh, she says. There we go. I'm not very good with my mouse. If you shake your mouse from side to side, it will literally minimize everything down into the taskbar. And if you want to maximize everything, you can give it a shake again, and anything you had open will maximize. So that feature is called shake, and it is particularly useful if you have lots of things open and you just very quickly want to minimize them. It doesn't close your documents. They're still there. They're just minimized back down. So two little features, snap and shake. And I always say to people, it sounds like a breakfast cereal, but they are quite useful little features. Lovely. All right, so let's now take a look at those kind of little productivity things that are going to make your life a little bit easier. I'm just going to close down this template document, so file and close. And we're going to go back to our document where we put our text. So let's move on to a couple of other things. So opening a new document. Again, you can go to the File ribbon, and remember, File isn't essentially a ribbon. File is your backstage area. So I can go File, I can select New from here, and then I can select Blank Document, or I can select one of the many templates that we have available in Word. And all of the templates, incidentally, are organized down into categories, so it really does depend what you're looking for. So if you're looking for, I could even do a search if I wanted to, so if you're looking for something like a letter template, I could type in letter, click on search, and it will go away and it will search for the online templates. And you can see you get a whole host of things which you can then go in and select. However, if you just want to do a blank document very quickly, you don't have to go File, New. If you do Control-N for New, and that will give you a new blank document very, very quickly. So Control-N is another shortcut which I would advise you remembering because it is quite useful. All right, so let's put some more text in here. As I said, some random text, which I'm just going to add in. Lovely, and let's take a look at some of the editing options that you have within Word. And just I've tried to pick out a few key things which I think that you're going to find quite useful. Now, in Word, recently they've introduced Wikipedia from within Word. So you can basically look up any piece of text and it will do a Wikipedia search for you from directly within Word, which can sometimes be really, really useful. Now, this random text that I have in here, it's not particularly exciting. So let me put in, we're going to pretend that this document is about the solar system. So I'm going to give it title like so. So maybe I want to Wikipedia the solar system. I can highlight my piece of text or whatever it might be. I can then right click and you'll see now we have a smart lookup option in the right click menu. And that will open up a pane running down the right hand side, and you can see down here it's now giving me the solar system and it's giving me a Wikipedia entry for the solar system. So I can then click on that and it will take me in, and it also gives me some more Wikipedia entries down below and also web searches for the solar system. So you can essentially sort of look things up, browse Wikipedia whilst you're in your document, which can be really handy. So that's just all from that right-click menu and that smart lookup feature as well. So that's actually quite nice and useful. I'm just going to close down that pane. Lovely. Something else that was quite new that they added into Word in the last release was related to comments. So again, if you're somebody who works with documents quite a lot and you add comments into documents, you now have the ability to reply to comments in line. So let's take a look at what I mean by that, because there are a few new things related to comments and track changes. So again, if I'm in my document and I need to add a comment, so I might want to highlight these three words here. I'm going to go to my, and comments are found in a couple of different ribbons. So I could insert them from the Insert ribbon, and I have comment just here. And I think they're also on the Review ribbon as well, and I have New Comment there as well. Okay. I think also they might possibly be in the right-click menu. Yes, New Comment at the bottom. So three different areas where you can add new comments. So let's just do it this way, New Comment. You can see at the side now it has the comment that I need to add. So I might want to say, please review this text, or whatever it might be, which is fine. Now, you're going to have to pretend that I'm somebody else in here. So maybe I've sent this to Sarah down the corridor, and maybe she wants to reply. So maybe she's amended this. She can now reply to my comment in line. You'll see with every comment you now have a reply box over on the right hand side. So if I click this little reply box, it allows me to reply to this. Oops. As I said, you're going to have to pretend that I'm not talking to myself in this example. Okay, so inline comments, a really, really nice new little feature in Word. Something else you also have relating to comments is something called simple markup, and if you use track changes and things like that, again we're going to stick on the review ribbon, which you can see up here in the tracking group. Currently I have all markups selected, so any comments, changes I've made are currently showing, which is correct. I can see any comments in this document. However, there is a new option called simple markup, and again this was added in the 2013 version, I think. Simple markup, if I switch to that, it's just a bit more of a discreet way of showing your comments. So my comments are still there, but we just don't have that big block running down the side of our Word document. I just have a nice little speech bubble just here, which I can click on, and I can see the comments in that way as well. So you have the option of simple markup, or you've got your options that you're used to as well, so all markup will show them kind of in the document. So that's quite a nice way of viewing your comments. Lovely. Now I'm going to go in and I'm just going to delete these comments, so delete all comments in document. And we're going to talk a little bit about styles in documents. Styles can be your best friend, and Word documents absolutely love styles. And unfortunately, styles are one of those things which people tend to overlook because it's related to formatting, and we all want to, when it comes to formatting, we all kind of want to format in the way that we know and the way that we're comfortable with. Whereas if you were to use styles, you'll find that it's very beneficial to you, and also you'll have a lot less corrupt documents as well. So let me show you what I mean by styles. Again, I don't know kind of how comfortable you are using styles, whether it's something that you're familiar with or something that you're very not familiar with, but let's just go very quickly through the basics. So I'm going to add in some headings throughout my document. So I've got my main heading, the solar system, and I'm going to add in a few headings. So we're going to stick with the planet theme. So we're going to do Mercury, Venus, Saturn. And I'm just going to do a few of these just so we can kind of get the idea of what we're talking about. Running out of planets. What else we got? Neptune. And there we go. We'll leave it there. So I've got a few headings in there. I'm now going to format those headings so that they stand out. So currently my headings aren't standing out. So what you would normally probably do is you would apply some formatting to the heading and those subheadings as well. So you might decide to make them bold, you might decide to make them italic, you might even decide to change the color of the font. And I could do that by simply going in and double-clicking on Mercury and using my little mini toolbar that comes up here to maybe change it to red, make it bold, make it italic, you know, whatever I wanted to apply. Now I could do that, but if I've got a lot of headings throughout my document, that's obviously going to be quite time consuming. This document isn't particularly long, so I could go through, but if you can imagine some of the documents which you might be working on, which might be 10, 20, 30 and above pages, if you've got headings running all the way through, you don't particularly want to spend time going through applying that same formatting. Even though there are tools we could use such as Format Painter to make that a little bit quicker, your life is going to be made so much easier if you get into the habit of using styles in your document, and your document will love you for it. Just a little bit of a word about formatting in documents. If you've ever suffered a corrupt document, and we've all have back in the day. I remember when I used to work for a law firm and we used to deal with very large documents, so documents that would be, Word documents that would be 1,000 pages long, and they would start to slow down and eventually they'd die and they'd crash, and a lot of it is related to people using formatting in the wrong way in their Word documents. So what I just did here to this subheading Mercury, that is what we call direct formatting. I've applied bold, red and italics to this. So that's 3 lots of formatting information I've given Word just for one word. If you can imagine, if I do that for lots of different things throughout this document, that's making that file size larger and larger and larger and larger. And what eventually happens is, with too much formatting in a document, your documents will eventually slow down, crash, become corrupt. We want to make sure that our documents are as slick and as efficient as possible, and the way to do that is to use styles. And you'll find that if you do get into the habit of using styles, you'll have a lot less corruption in your documents. So let's just Control Z a few times and get our Mercury back to where it was. So styles, on your home ribbon you have a big old group called styles. It's this big long one just here, and you can see we have in there normal, no space, heading 1, heading 2, title, lots of different things. If I click the drop down arrow at the end of this group for more, you can see all of the styles. These are the inbuilt styles that Word gives you. So you can see here it's saying heading 1 looks like that. And as I hover over, because live preview, you can see what that's going to look like if I was to apply it to my paragraph of text. So in general, what you would do is you would use heading 1 for the first level of headings, heading 2 for the second level of headings, heading 3, 4, so on and so forth as you go down your levels of heading. Now you might not necessarily want your headings to look exactly as these headings look. Those are the defaults that Word gives you. You can change those if you want to. So for example, in the corner of this group, if you click the little drop-down arrow, this is where you have your styles pane. So you can go in and you can modify any of these. So if you hover over, for example, heading 1, if I don't want my heading 1 to look like that, like blue and quite large, maybe I want it to be red and bold, I can hover over heading 1, I can click the drop-down arrow and I can select modify, and I can go in and I can modify that to however I want it to look. So you're not stuck with the ones that Word gives you. You can go in and modify it to your own tastes. Okay, I'm not going to change these because I actually do use these, but I know a lot of places have like their own way that they like documents to look. So in case you weren't aware of that, you can go in and change those. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to apply to the solar system. So I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to select heading 1 because that's my main title. And then my subheadings, I'm going to highlight Mercury. I'm going to click heading 2. Now, if you do have quite a few to do, if I want to apply heading 2 to the rest of these planets within this document, I can highlight by holding down the Control key, which will allow me to highlight multiple. So I'm going to select Venus, I'm going to hold down Control, and then click in the margin next to Saturn. You'll see it will allow me to do that, so on and so forth. So this means I can apply everything all in one go. So once I've got them highlighted, I can then click on heading 2, and that will apply heading 2 to those. Okay, so that makes it quite nice and quick. The good thing about that as well, when you use styles in your document, say this document was 30 pages long, if I then sent that to my manager and he said to me, you know what, I don't like the look of those headings, I want them all to be red, if I've used styles, I can change them in a couple of clicks. If I hadn't used styles, to go through all 30 pages manually changing those to red. Okay, so if he now comes to me and says I want all of these subheadings to be red, all I need to do is go into my styles pane again by clicking on the little arrow in the corner. I know that these are heading 2s, so I'm going to select the drop down next to heading 2 and I'm going to do select all. I can then go in to my formatting area and change the font color to red, and very quickly I've done those. So if I hadn't have used styles, it would not be that easy for me. So it's just a way of saving time. So that's one way that styles can be used. Another useful thing, if you have used styles throughout your document, and you'll see I keep harping on about styles because they are so useful for many different things. So that's one way. It keeps your document clean, keeps your document safe, it keeps your document free from corruption. It allows you to make changes very quickly, so it's time saving. It also allows you to navigate around your document really quickly as well if you have used styles. So let's jump across to the View ribbon. Now you'll see on the view ribbon in the show area we have a little option called navigation pane. So I'm just going to put a tick in the navigation pane box. And you'll see on the left hand side it's now brought up a little navigation pane and it's pulled into it all of the headings. So if I've marked something with a heading 1, a heading 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to pull it into that pane. And this is perfect. Again, we only have a very short document in this example, but if you can imagine, if you've got a 200-page document, if you've got stars throughout, I can navigate very easily by just clicking on the area that I want and it will jump me to that part of the document. So it's a great way for being able to jump around really, really quickly and you'll be able to see where your headings are as well. You can also move things around, so you can drag and drop these. So I can move Venus and drag and drop and it will actually move that paragraph of text within the document as well. So it's a great way of reordering sections without having to do copy, scroll down, paste. You can just drag and drop in the navigation pane as well to move your sections of text around like so. All right, so another really good reason to start using styles when you're creating your documents. And to close that navigation pane down, we're just going to click on the close button in the corner. The final thing before I come off the topic of styles altogether, because I'm sure you're probably thinking, oh, she really does love her styles, doesn't she? I do. And this is related to table of contents. So again, if any of you have had to put in a table of contents in a document, and this seems to be something which people are really unsure about, and there's some people that don't seem to know that you can actually put a table of contents into a Word document. Again, you must have your document using styles if you want to utilize Word's table of contents feature. If you have used styles throughout your document, super easy to put a table of contents in a document. So let me show you very quickly. So I want a table of contents on the front of this document. I'm going to click my mouse and I'm just going to press return once and I'm going to go to the home ribbon, and I find when I'm doing things like this or doing formatting, it's very useful to turn on paragraph markers. So what I mean by that is in this paragraph group you'll see we have a little option here called show hide. So I'm going to click that and it just shows me all of the paragraph marks, which is sometimes really, really useful. It will also show if you've got a page break in a document. You can't see a page break or a section break until you turn on show hide, and then you can see it. So it's always really useful to see all that underlying formatting. So I'm going to turn that on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a page break so that I've got an entire page for my table of contents. So when it comes to putting in breaks, you could, again, there's a few different ways that you can put breaks into a page. I could go to Insert, and there is a breaks option just there, or page break option just there. Or I could go to Layout, and you see I have a breaks option there, and this gives me page breaks, which I can use, or section breaks in here. Or if I'm just want to do one very quickly, if I press Control and Enter, that's going to give me a page break very quickly. So I quite like using that shortcut of Control and Enter if I just want a very quick page break. So I'm going to place my cursor before that page break and I'm going to insert my table of contents. This is so easy. As long as you've got styles in your document, super easy. I'm going to go to the References ribbon at the top here. And you'll see the first group that we have is called Table of Contents. So I'm going to select the drop down and you'll see we have a few different styles of Table of Contents, and you can modify these afterwards. I'm just going to use the first one. And very quickly is put in a table of contents. I'm just going to go back to my home ribbon and turn off paragraph marks so it's a bit cleaner and easier to see. So I could then go in and I could, if I wanted it to say table of contents, I can modify that. Oops. Like so. Okay, and you can see here it's given me the page that those are located on. All right, so really easy. I didn't have to do anything. A couple of clicks, I've got a working table of contents in there. Now what happens if I make some amendments to my document and maybe this section Neptune goes on to page 3? How do I update this table of contents? So let's deal with that scenario. Let's scroll down and I'm going to put a page break in here just before where it says Neptune. So I'm just going to put myself on a new line and I'm going to do that same shortcut that we did before, Control Enter, to give me a page break. If I want to make sure it's there, I can turn on my show hide marks and I can see, yep, there's my page break. I definitely know it's there. So my section Neptune is now on page 3 and not page 2. But my table of contents still says it's on page 2. So once you make changes that are affecting the layout, you want to make sure you get into the habit of going back to your table of contents and updating it. Okay? Again, a couple of ways that you can do it. If you click in your table of contents, you'll see you then get an update table option just here. If you click update table, it's going to say update page numbers only or update the entire table. I always do update entire table and click on OK, and you'll now see that it's changed. Neptune is now on page 3. So just get into the habit of doing that as well. Okay, so really, really simple to put a table of contents into a document. Lovely. All right, let's move on to something else which people, I find anyway, people tend to struggle with a little bit, and that is headers and footers, linking, unlinking, page numbering, things like that. Probably one of the most common things I get asked. In fact, I had somebody in my team ask me about it the other day. They were working on a large document and they were trying to have a header on one page, but then they didn't want it on the next page, but if they deleted it, it would delete off all the pages, and they were just really confused as to how you actually kind of manage headers and footers, how you link them, unlink them, make changes. And I can completely understand if you've ever had this problem. I remember when I was first learning Word, it's one of the things I found really frustrating was the headers and the footers, because I just didn't understand what it was doing. I thought, I'm deleting it. Why is it deleting it off everything? So let's go in so that you understand exactly how you deal with these situations. So let's add a header and a footer into our document. So we've got 3 pages in this document, and I find the quickest way, if I want to do anything relating to headers and footers, is just to double-click your mouse in the header area, and that will take you directly into the header, and it will give you the header and footer tools contextual ribbon at the top here. So you can see now I have a design ribbon and I have all of my options for my headers and footers on my contextual ribbon. Remember, those contextual ribbons only appear when they're needed. If I click out of the footer, if I double click onto the page, that ribbon disappears. So it's a contextual ribbon. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to add some stuff, that's the technical term, some stuff into my header. Now you can pretty much add and customize these however you like. You can add your own pictures. You'll see there's an option for pictures, so I could put a picture that I've saved off, a company logo, whatever it might be in this header. I can put text. I can put whatever I like in my header. Just for this example, I'm just going to go with some of the default options that they have. So in this first header and footer group, I'm going to click header. And I'm just going to go with this little thing here. So I'm going to call this document the solar system. So this is just one of Word's default headers. And I'm going to click Close Header Footer. So I've added that header into my document, and if I scroll down, even though I only added it once, you'll see that that header is repeated on every single page in my document. Okay. Now, what if I don't want that header on every single page? What do I do? Well, this is what most people do, is they say, right, I don't want this header on page 2, so they double click, they come into here, and then they delete it and close their header and footer. And then they're like, oh, it's deleted it off of every single page. And this is where the confusion comes. People are like, well, I deleted it off page 2, but it's disappeared off all of my pages. What am I doing wrong? And this situation arises because you haven't sectioned up your document correctly. Okay, headers and footers, if you want to manipulate them and have some on one page and maybe not on the other page, you need to make sure your document is divided up into sections. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do next. In fact, I'm going to show you how to do this on my other document because we've got some page breaks and stuff in there. So let's go on to my other document. And we've got a couple of pages in there. I'm going to add in a little bit more text just so that we've got about 4 pages or so. So let's just add in some more. Lovely. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to add in a header again. So double click in the header. I'm going to go to header and add that in and change that title to oops, I can't spell today, the solar system. All right, so as we know, that's going to appear on every single page. What I want is I want to remove the header from page 2, but then I want it again on page 3. So how am I going to do that? We've already seen if I go in and remove it from page 2, it's going to remove it from the entire document. Now, this is where it's useful to know about sections in your document. Now, if you cast your eyes down to the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can see it currently says section 1. So where I'm clicked now, that is section 1. Now, section 1 will not always show down there for you. It depends what you have selected to be shown in this status bar. And this is another little tip. I would always recommend having your section status turned on in your status bar. And you do that by, if you get onto a blank area of this grey bar at the bottom and right-click your mouse, this will allow you to select what things you want to display in this status bar at the bottom. Okay, so you can see I've got section selected, so that's telling me what section I'm currently in. There's lots of other things which you can customize in here as well. So if you want to see when you've got your caps lock turned on, you can make sure you've got that option selected, lots of different things. So it's worth having a little look in there and customizing your status bar. So I've got my sections turned on, so I can see that I'm in section 1. So if I move down to page 2 and click in there, I'm still in section 1. So because I haven't added into this document any section breaks, my entire document is essentially just section 1. So that means any change I make to the header in section 1 is going to apply to all of section 1, which is why when I delete it, it disappears from every single page. So what I need to do is split my document up into sections so that I can then delete things from a particular section and it won't affect another section, if that makes sense. So let's put that into practice. I'm going to scroll back up. So I want to keep my header on page 1. However, I want to delete it on page 2. So what I need to do is I need to section off page 2. So I'm going to put in a section break at the end of this page. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to the layout ribbon and I'm going to go to breaks, and you'll see we have section breaks just here. Now I don't want to put a section break and have it go on to the next page, so I'm just going to put a continuous section break in, which is just going to add a section break for me, and I'm going to turn on my show hide marker so you can see that. So section break, there we go. So now you'll see if I click either side, so if I click my mouse above the section break, and if you look down in the bottom left hand corner it says section 1. If I click below the section break, I'm now in section 2. So if I delete from section 2, it's not going to affect anything in section 1. So this is what you need to do. Okay. Now another thing, I do want my header to be on section on page 3. So I want to add in another section break, because if I don't, the rest of the document is section 2, so it's going to delete it from the rest of the document. Okay, so you need to start thinking about how you split up your document. So I've got my section break there, and I'm going to add in another one at the end here. So I'm going to go to Layout, Breaks, and I'm going to do the same thing, section break continuous. So now this is section 3. So I now should be able to delete the header from section 2 by double-clicking in here. And I'm going to, just highlight this and delete and click on Close Header Footer. Oh, what did I do wrong? Sorry, guys. Let me just do Control Z. Sorry, so double click in your header, and you'll also have to unlink it. So you'll see here by default, when you double click in the header, you have in your header and footer tools, it will say link to previous. So basically your headers and your footers are all linked throughout your document. So you need to make sure that before you delete it, you also unlink it. So you want to click that unlink to previous. And then you can go in and delete your header like so. And hopefully this time it will work. She says, oh my goodness. Sorry, let me do that again. I'm showing you a bad example here. I think I need to go into page 3 as well. Yeah, so you see what I mean. So if you go down to page 3, all of these pages are linked through, so you're going to need to, depending on how you've divided them up, unlink them. Otherwise it's going to do what you did in the previous section. So just close that now. And you're going to need to unlink your document. Break that link like so, and then you can go in and delete. So I still get these wrong, as you can see. There we go. So we've got our header there. We've got no header on there, but we have our header on the 3rd page. So you need to split your document up into sections and then do unlink to previous in order to get those to flow through. As you can see there, sometimes it doesn't work for me when I do it as well. You think, oh, I've forgotten to unlink it from previous, or I haven't put a section break in. There's a few different things to remember in there, and if you don't do it that often, then it can be a little bit difficult to remember. But hopefully that's kind of giving you an idea, because I know that is something that confuses people quite a lot as well. Split your document up into sections and then unlink your headers. Lovely. All right, so that is your headers and footers, linking and unlinking. Couple of other things that are worth mentioning relating to pictures. So I'm going to go to page 1 of this document and press enter. And there's now a couple of new functions when it comes to pictures as well. So if you want to insert pictures into your document, if you go to the insert ribbon at the top, we now have the ability to insert online pictures as well. So if you have a picture saved off onto your C drive or saved locally, you can insert that still exactly the same way by clicking on pictures, but you can also click on online pictures, which will then allow you to go in, once mine loads. It's probably going to be quite slow. There we go. And it will allow you to go in and search the internet essentially for a picture. So this is Microsoft, and so the default search engine is Bing as opposed to Google, but pretty much your search results are going to be the same. So I could go into here and I could do the solar system. In fact, let's just do solar system. And hit return, and it's going to do essentially an internet search, and I can then go in and select a picture to add into my document. So I'm going to select that one there and click on insert, and that's put my picture in there. In fact, I'm going to do one slightly bigger than that, so let's do that again. So I quite like this feature. It just means that you can do everything from within, because I'm constantly going and finding pictures on the internet and then inserting them into documents. I quite like the fact that I can now do that from directly within Word. So let's just do that again. I want to find a bigger picture to put in. So let's do that one just there, looks good, and do insert. Lovely. Okay, so we've got our picture in our document. Now I'm clicked on it, and I'm sure you're all used to doing the resizing, so the dragging in of the handles in the corner, so it is quite large, so I'm just going to drag that in like so. You'll also see as I'm clicked on it, we have this little icon pop up in the top corner. And if we click that, that is our layout options. This is related to your text wrapping, so how you want your text to flow around that picture. So do you want it to go behind? Do you want it to go square? Do you want it to go tight to the picture? How do you want that to flow around? So currently I have in line with text, which means the text is going to be above and below. It's not going to be around the outside of the picture, but I could change that to square if I wanted to, and it will put the text around, so on and so forth. Okay. You'll also notice, I'm going to keep it like that for a moment, when, and again this is fairly new, there's now some alignment guides that have been added, and these are particularly useful when you are lining up pictures. So if you have a few objects, it doesn't necessarily have to be a picture, it might be shapes, it might be arrows, it might be text boxes. If you want to make sure that they're lined up, sometimes it's quite difficult. If you've got a few different objects on a page and you're trying to get them all lined up in the center, that's quite difficult. What you can now do is when you pick up an object and drag it around, can you see I now have a green line just above my picture? These are called alignment guides, so you'll get these as you move your picture. So now it's telling me, that alignment guide, that I am now aligned to the top of the text in that paragraph. That picture is aligned. I can move it to the middle of the screen, and there'll be one in the middle which is telling me that that picture is now dead in the center of the page. Okay, and it also relates to other objects. So if I had a circle, a shape on this page, it would show me, you know, when I'm in the center of that circle, when I'm dragging and dropping my objects around. So your alignment guides can be really useful when it comes to lining up objects. I find it's really, really helpful. Lovely. Now, something that's really important when it comes to pictures, and this always shocks people when I tell them, because you've probably been doing it this way for years and not realizing the danger that you're putting yourself in with regards to things like this. Cropping pictures. So when we say cropping pictures, all we mean is kind of removing part of this picture. So if you've got a picture, you've put it in your Word document, maybe you've got a picture of a landscape and there's a lot of sky, maybe you want to cut down the amount of sky, you would probably use the crop tool in order to do that. And we've all used the crop tool before. I'm going to click on this picture. I'm going to go to my Picture Tools contextual ribbon. And I'm going to go to the size group at the end, and you'll see we have a crop option. And I'm going to select crop. And you see I now have these little black handles, we'll call them, around the outside of my picture, and I can drag and drop them in. So this isn't going to be a particularly great crop. I'm going to drag this one down and crop it in half. For what reason I want to do that, I don't know. But you'll see as I drag it down, and then I can press enter and it will crop that picture. Okay, so we're all used to doing that. However, what most people don't know is that if you were then to send, or if I was to send this document to a colleague, they can very, very easily get back the rest of the picture that I cropped out by just clicking the crop option again. Now you might think, well, why does that matter? I don't really care if they see it. It might do in some instances. For example, if you've maybe used a picture and maybe you've cropped out someone's logo or you've cropped out some sensitive information, you don't want the person you're sending it to be able to very quickly put all that information back into the picture, which they can if you don't permanently remove your cropped areas. So let me just show you what happens if you don't permanently remove the cropped areas. So I've cropped this picture. Let's just pretend I'm someone else. I've just received this document. If I click on the picture and go back to crop and select crop again, it puts back the rest of the picture that I cropped out, and I can just drag the handle back to where it was. And I have my picture back again. So if I had cropped out something sensitive, the person receiving it can very quickly get that back. So, you know, that could be quite a sensitive, depending on what industry you work in, could be quite dangerous as well. So you do want to make sure that if you've got a document and you have got pictures in that document and you've used the crop tool, you want to make sure that before you send that document to anybody else that you permanently remove the cropped areas. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's just crop it again. I'm going to drag it down and click crop and just pull it up a little bit. So maybe I've got a few cropped pictures in here and I want to send this document to my colleague Sally down the corridor. Before I send it, I'm going to click on a picture, I'm going to go to my Picture Tools ribbon and I'm going to click on this Compress Pictures option. Now Compress Pictures allows you to do a couple of things, both of which I would advise if you're sending a which has lots of pictures to other people. First thing it will do is it will compress all the pictures in your document, so it's going to optimize all the pictures. So your file size is going to be the best it can be for the amount of graphics that you have in there. So we would always recommend that you optimize or compress the pictures. That's fine. If you want to apply it to only the picture you currently have highlighted, you can keep that checkbox selected. If you do have a lot of pictures in your document, you can untick that option. It will apply compression to all of the pictures. And you want to make sure you've got delete cropped areas of picture selected. That is what will permanently delete the cropped area. So if I click on OK. Now, if Sally was to click on this picture and go to crop and select crop, it doesn't allow her to bring back because I've permanently removed those cropped areas. Okay, so that is your compress picture option. It does two things, two really useful things. Lovely. I've got about 5 minutes left. I've got just a few other things on here which I want to run through with you. Some things which I think you might find useful is exporting to PDFs and also PDF, something we call PDF reflow. So I've got my document here and I want to convert my document to a PDF document. Again, I can do that very, very easily through Word. I can click on the File ribbon. I can go down to the Export tab and I can do Create PDF by clicking this button like so. And it's going to ask me, where do I want to save this? So I'm going to save this to my desktop and I'm going to say Solar System, I'm going to call it, and it's going to be saved as a PDF document. And I'm going to click Publish. And that will go away, and there we go. It's now converted it into a PDF document. It's opened that PDF automatically for me as well. Okay, so you have the ability to export as a PDF, which is quite a nice option. Now the reverse of that is something called PDF reflow, and this kind of flies in the face of everything you've been told about PDF documents up until this point. I'm sure if you asked a room of people, how do you protect, what's the best way of protecting a Word document so that somebody can't edit it, 90% of the room is going to say, well, you convert it to a PDF because you can't edit a PDF. You can now. What you can do is you can very simply convert any PDF to a Word document from within Word, and it's called PDF reflow. So let's kind of do the reverse. I'm just going to close this down and I'm going to do Don't Save. Okay, so I just converted that document to a PDF. Now all I need to do is open up Word, and I can do this with any PDF document that I've got saved. I'm going to go to File. And all you need to do is open the document basically. So I'm going to go to Open and I'm just going to go to Browse because I saved it on my desktop. And there it is, it's a PDF file, so I'm going to select it and I'm going to click Open. So you're just opening a PDF within Word. Word will pop up with a message that says Word will now convert your PDF to an editable Word document. This may take a while. The resulting Word document will be optimized to allow you to edit the text, so it might not look exactly like the original PDF, especially if the original file contained a lot of graphics. So basically what that's telling you is that it's going to do its best to convert it to Word for you, but if you've got a document that contains a lot of graphics, things might not be positioned in exactly the same way as they were in the PDF, so you might need to tidy it up a little bit. I will say that every time I've done this, if the document just contains text, it pretty much converts it perfectly back to Word. Occasionally you might have to reposition the odd object if you've got charts in there, things like that, but for the most part, if you just click OK, and this will be interesting because we do have a graphic. There we go. So that was a PDF document, which is now a Word document. So you could do that with anything. So I'm sure you can see the advantage of that. If you've got a PDF that you need to maybe take some information out of, you can now convert it to Word very easily and you can go on using it as a Word document. So PDF reflow is a really, really nice little option that we have in there as well. Lovely. Something else I find quite useful just before we're finishing up is something called quick parts, which you may or may not be used to using as well. So again, on the insert ribbon, right over in the text box, almost towards the end, we have a little option called quick parts, and this is particularly useful if you have things that you reuse. It's a way of inserting reusable content time and time again. So maybe you always have a sign-off that you use, or maybe there's always a logo that you use with some text or something along those lines. You can save it as a quick part. So for example, all of this. Maybe this piece of text, these last few paragraphs, are something that I tend to add into a lot of different documents, and I don't want to have to type it out again in every single document, or maybe I don't want to go hunting around to find the document to copy and paste it across. I could save this text as a quick part and then very quickly enter this information in. So I'm going to highlight, and it doesn't have to be text, it could be a picture, it could be a table, it could be pretty much anything that you can save as a quick part. I'm going to go to quick parts and I'm going to do save selection to quick part gallery. I'm then going to give my quick part a name, so I'm just going to call this themes, oops, and I'm going to click on OK. Alright, so now if I was in a different part of the document or in a completely new document, so let's scroll up to the top here, and I wanted to add in that quick part, I can just go to quick parts again and I can add it in because there it is listed just there, and it will put that in. So that could be anything that you have. Way of doing it, and I'm not going to be able to demonstrate this, but if, for example, you have a few quick parts that you use, and if you can remember the names of all of them, so for example that one was called themes, I believe. See, I've got memory like a sieve. There we go, themes. Instead of going to quick parts and selecting it from there, you could just type the name, themes, press the F3 key, and it will also insert. I can't demonstrate that to you because when we're on a webinar call, when we've got headphones plugged in, my function keys don't work. So if I press F3, it's actually going to start to try and adjust my volume. So, but on your PCs, if you type in the name, press F3, then that will also insert your quick part, and you can add as many quick parts as you like. So again, it's just almost like auto text. It's a quick way of adding things into your documents. And just like that, an hour is up. There's so much more I could show you. There's so many different things in Word, but hopefully that's kind of given you a few tips and tricks and some things that you didn't know. I'm just going to hand back across and just check if there's any questions coming in on chats that we can answer.
Yeah, thanks for that, Deborah. We've got some questions here. So we've got one from Stephen Elliott, who wants to know, well, he says, once you have set your styles the way you want them, are you able to save the styles for reuse on other Word documents?
Yes. Do you need to Hi, yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, that's a great question. So let me just show, yes you can. So what you can do is you can save it to the template. So let's go back. I think I still have that document open, or maybe I don't know. Yeah, what you can do is, let's just put a quick style in here. Yeah, so say you go into your styles pane and you modify these. So maybe you make them red or whatever it is. And we'll just do that. So I'm just going to modify this heading 2, for example. So you'd make your changes in here, okay? Now, what you can do is down the bottom here, you can save it into just this document. So if you just want to use those styles within that one document, you've got the option there, which is the default. Or you can choose this here, new documents based on this template. So essentially, if I select that and click OK, it's going to save that to normal ... which is what all new blank documents are based on. So those styles will be available to you within any document that you create that's based on the normal ... template. So you can choose to have it in just one, or you can have those across all of your templates, essentially, just by selecting this down here. Hopefully that's answered your question.
Thanks for that, Deb. We've got one more question here from Agatha Melvin, who wants to know, does PDF conversion come with Word 2016, or is it available with other versions as well?
Lovely, thanks for that question. Yeah, great question. No, it's not just with 2016, so it's available for 2013 and also 2010. I can't tell you about 2007 because I didn't use that version, but it wasn't available in 2003, I know that. So pretty much from 2010 on, you have the ability to convert your documents using File Open and just opening that PDF document. So yeah, from 2010 onwards, possibly 2007.
Great, thanks for that, Deb. We've got one more question here from Brianna, who wants to know, if a PDF is secured, can you still convert it to a Word document?
When you say secured, I'm assuming you mean maybe locked with a password, something along those lines. If it's locked with a password, then it's not going to let you open it. Essentially what you're doing is you're opening that document. So if there's some kind of password which you need to enter in before you can open it, then no, you're not going to be able to convert it. However, if you can open that PDF document, then yes, you are going to be able to convert it. So this is what we mean by we tend to scare people a little bit who for years have been like, oh, PDFs are really secure, and then Microsoft basically blown all that out of the water. So with regards to document security, and this is normally a follow-up question we get, what is the best way to protect a document if PDFs can be converted so easily? We would always suggest that the password root, the password protection, things like that.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, so that's all we've got time for today. Thanks for coming, everyone. We hope you will join us again for the next one. So have a great day, everybody.